Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishayavirai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May God protect both teacher and student. May He nourish us together. May we work together with great energy. May our study be enlightening. May there be no hate among us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Is Kapilji available online now? Is Kapil joining us today?
Acharya just now he's joining.
Oh, okay.
He's in actually.
Okay. I remember last Tuesday we spoke and then we ended with two suggestions. One to speak on the silence specifically, and then the other one was to talk about Yama and Niyama of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So, am I right, Kapilji? You asked to speak on silence part of out of 3S. Is that
yes,
right?
Acharya, that's correct, Acharya.
Okay. Okay. I'm just waiting for most of you to turn on your camera if you have no other problems of technical reason. So I get to see. Is Chaitali online today? Not yet.
Not yet, Acharya.
Okay. 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 So
I'm signing from different devices. My front camera is not working, so it's issue. So I'm joining from different device. Purnima this side.
yes, that's all right. That's okay. So long you are able to, if I'm audible, that's good enough. There are some more joining, so I don't know whether I should start. So we spoke about three things to continue the yoga abhyas: the silence, stillness, and solitude. Now, these are not really the conditions or the something that one must do, but these are three things that could enhance your study or help you enhance your study of yoga abhyas, of whether you are practicing asana or pranayama or meditation, or even if you are chanting, for instance, or reading some literature of higher knowledge. Maintaining these three conditions of silence, stillness, and solitude help enhance your abhyas or study. Now, quickly we talk about other two things other than silence first. So the other two things are stillness and solitude. Now, for most of us, to find a solitude in our daily life is not very practical unless you have a space designed for yourself or dedicated for your studies. that you are able to maintain a solitude, which means that you are not being disturbed by any other sound or any other external factor. So that's a kind of a solitude that you are just around by yourself and no one else. And solitude also means that you should also be, as long as possible, closer to nature and your own self, which means you go within yourself. So solitude may not be practical for everyday practice. The best you could do is that you dedicate a time and a spot that you maintain every day, because the spot that you practice your abhyas generates a holistic energy, and that energy helps you to enhance your studies and your abhyas. So as far as possible, keep a dedicated place for your everyday study or everyday practice. Now, second aspect was stillness. Stillness is extremely important. And stillness is not about just the maintaining a stillness of your body or your physical form, but stillness of your thoughts. And when I say stillness of your thought, is to be aware of your thoughts. And once you are aware of your thought, then it is your conscious decision to direct your thoughts into one direction. And that one direction could be of studying of higher knowledge or practicing yoga or doing dhyana. So stillness of body and your thought, both are important. And this is extremely important. So it is, these are the two aspects. And the other third one is to maintain a silence. Now, when we speak about silence, it's not that you are stop talking, which is also important, that you have to practice sometime when you keep quiet and you do not talk. But silence also means that you do not allow your ears to hear other sounds. Silence of hearing. There's two senses. One sense of seeing, the second sense of hearing, and third sense of speaking. So all three doors of our senses, eyes, ears, and mouth, have to be shut. And that's silence. So it's not just that you stop talking, but you stop listening. You stop seeing. When I say seeing, external objects or external subject. Close your eyes. That helps you to divert your attention from focusing onto external objects. It directs your attention to your internal world. It goes within yourself. When you try to stop hearing or listening to the other sound, it allows you to hear your own sound. We all generate our own subtle sound. The breathing itself generates sounds. But that sound is so subtle that unless you maintain total silence, you do not hear it. So there are different methods and practices whereby you try to find your own voice or your own sound. One of them is when we do pranayam of Brahmari, we plug our ears. When you plug your ears, it also means that you're not allowing external sound to disturb you, or that you do not listen to any other external sound, but you try to find rhythm or sound or voice within yourself. So the silence is silence of not speaking, silence of not hearing or listening, and silence of not seeing the other objects, external, outside. So that's why three S, as it's known, are important for practicing. It also says that if you seek a peace of your mind, a peace, feeling of peace, try to remain still. When you are still physically, mentally, you can test what is the peace. And that peace is something that only when you experience, you know what it is. When you want to seek a wisdom of higher knowledge, try to be silent. As I said, silence of your speech, your hearing, and your seeing. When you stop those three senses, the inner voice, the inner world opens up. And when your inner voice is revealing the wisdom, as I have said every time, that the most important reality and most important truth is already within us. We just have to uncover it. In order to uncover the truth, in order to uncover the reality, you just have to be silent. And when you are in mode of silence, that truth, that reality is revealed. It's revealed. So maintaining the peace of mind by maintaining stillness, closing your senses of eyes, hearing, and speaking, you receive the peace of mind and wisdom. And third aspect, when you seek a love, and when I say love, I mean unconditional love, the divine love, you need to find a solitude. When you go to solitude, you are alone. You are alone, but you are not lonely because you have company of your own inner self. And that's the advantage of being in solitude. Physically, you are alone, but actually, you are enjoying your own company. You are discovering your own inner self. And that's the advantage of solitude. So therefore, if you seek peace, be still. If you seek wisdom, be silent. If you seek love, be yourself in solitude. Be yourself. Just remain being. And remain being is to watch your own inner self in solitude. And that's why the ancient wisdom says, try to practice those three S: solitude, silence, and stillness. Does that clear your question, Kapilji?
Yes, Acharya, to a certain extent, at least in which direction to move. So,
Yes. So
thank you very much.
if you still find it not very clear, raise your doubt. It's always the debate that opens up and clears up the questions. So it's all right that you do not have the clear understanding of all three aspects, but what is important is to mentally raise that question and try to find answer. And when you find answer, you may not find answer, but other words, you will dissolve the question.
Exactly. Thank you, Acharya.
So is it all right to speak of those Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which Chaitali wanted to actually know, but I do not see her. Is she there?
Yes, good morning,
Yes,
Acharya.
Acharya.
I am
Oh,
here.
okay, Chaitali, good. Okay, so you said about yama and niyama, is that right?
Yeah, that 5 elements of each, uh, how it enhances our develop emotions, help to develop emotions in the sense, I'm talking about positive emotions. Any emotions, positive or negative, but I think I was studying it and suddenly it came in my mind. By practicing these principles, uh, it may help us to grow emotion or enhance our emotion. So that's why I asked. Like for an example, ahimsa, if we follow ahimsa, then there will be a peace, or there will be no anger. So this is the way also we are enhance our emotion. That's why that was my question.
Yes, good. As I said last week, I'm not sure about the emotion related to this practice, because to me, emotion means your own energy in motion. So emotion is that what our energy, if it is dormant, then your emotion is more or less stagnant. But if your emotion is in motion, your energy is in motion, you have varied emotions throughout your day and life. So I'm not going into that of emotion aspect of it, but let's talk about this first two aspect of sutras, yama. Now, as I said briefly last time, yama and niyamas are, in other words, don'ts. One must not do certain things if you want to lead a yogic life. And there are other things which are recommended to follow or to do. Now, in my opinion, these are the primary requirements or qualification that one must have in order to achieve the clarity on the subject and purity. These are very two important things in spiritual life when you are following. Now, Patanjali never emphasized on practicing asanas, for instance. I mean, he did mention few asanas, but those asanas were very simple, basic. So his emphasis was more on your Raj Yoga. That means the pranayama followed by dharana and dhyana. This is what he emphasized. Now, in order to do dharana and dhyana, you need to have certain merits. Now, in his opinion, unless you have clarity on subject, and when we are talking about spiritual subject, unless you have clarity on subject, your efforts will be superfluous. Your effort will be only to pamper your ego, that you are following certain sadhana, certain practices of yoga. Therefore, he emphasized that a student of yoga must first and foremost have the information on this subject, gather the information. Once you have information, then you try to pursue the knowledge of it. Find the knowledge out of your information. These are the two different categories. One is information, second is knowledge. Once you gain a knowledge, then do the contemplation. Once you are doing contemplation, you come to a clarity. And when you are got a clarity on the subject and you are convinced about the subject, then you practice it. And when you practice it, these are the conditions that he laid down, yamas and niyama, to practice. By doing so, you gain the wisdom. and it is your own wisdom. So yamas are 5 things that one must avoid, one must not do. First is ahimsa. So everyone knows what is ahimsa, the meaning of ahimsa, the word non-violence. But he did not mean that non-violence is ahimsa alone. He means ahimsa not only physical form, but emotionally, mentally. So try to, I think I have mentioned it when we spoke on this last time, that take up in your day-to-day life, if you really want to practice this yama niyama, start with one simple day-to-day mundane activity. For instance, you have a child at home, just an example, a child at home, and as an adult, you try to explain what is right thing, the mannerism of eating, for instance, or mannerism or timing of sleeping, or timing of waking up, or timing of getting dressed up. You know, the mundane things every day as an adult you do, you try to explain it to your child or any children at home so that they follow the same routine. Now, child as such has no exposure of such discipline and routine. They have their own routine. So it is not necessary that they will listen to you or obey you or follow you. They may protest. At that time, most adults feel emotionally challenged because of your adult ego. No matter you are parent or grandparent or cousins or whatever, siblings, whoever, there is this ego of adulthood comes to play, that whatever you're trying to teach certain, according to you, teach something valuable, the child is protesting. At that time, you either feel angry and try to, you may not hit, you may not touch the boy or a girl or a child, but in your mind, anger comes up. And in that anger, you may try to avoid the child, try to walk away from child, and kind of display the unpleasant gesture because your ego is hurt, because the child did not listen to you. That is violence. That is a violence. You have committed a violence towards the child, not in a physical manner, but mentally. A thought arises, and that thought itself is a violence thought. And according to Patanjali, one must have a control over it and avoid that, practicing non-violence. Now, when you apply to that extent the principle of non-violence, you realize it is hard, it is difficult. And therefore, most yogis of now, these days, try to find a compromise, and they remain aware that they have this feeling of ahimsa, feeling of anger towards different things. I just gave an example of child. It can happen on the road, in the traffic, that you get angry and you give out certain thoughts or words, or if not action, at least words of violence, which means you are not following what is the first principle of yama, which is ahimsa. So therefore, it's good to know what is ahimsa, but in order to practice it, it's not easy, in my opinion. However, one has not to give up. Keep doing it as far as it's possible, as much as possible. And what you cannot follow, be aware of it. Tell yourself, today I cannot follow ahimsa 100%, but I am aware of my weakness. That is ahimsa, the first one. Second in Yama is satya. Now again, the word satya literally means truthfulness. Now ask your own self, how much are you able to be truthful in every aspect of your day-to-day life? Not that you're displaying truthfulness, but you must feel truthfulness. You must have a thought of truthfulness. You must have an attitude of truthfulness. And that's satya. So it is not only that you follow the truthfulness, you should have ability to accept untruthful of others. And that's linked to ahimsa. You follow the truthfulness and you start expecting everything in your life happens according to your wish, according to your principle of truthfulness. But that's not the way it happens. You are living your life of truthfulness, but the people around you in the society may not. So you may encounter a situation, circumstances, relationship, which is not based on truthfulness. Now, at that point of time, it is linked to the principle of ahimsa. Because if you raise a thought or emotion of anger, of not acceptance, or committing ahimsa. So no matter you follow the truthfulness, you should have a strength and wisdom to accept whatever is received in response. It may not be truthful, but that is connected to your ahimsa. It is connected to your karmic account. And karmic account of people who are responding. As an individual, your primary responsibility is to evolve your own jivatma, your own lower self. In order to evolve your own lower self, you are concerned with your own evolution, which means following these principles of yama and niyama. So in yama, the ahimsa, and as I said, each one of them are interlinked. They are not separate from each other. Ahimsa is interlinked with satya, or satya is interlinked with ahimsa. So satya literally means truthfulness that you maintain as a way of life, way of living, your lifestyle. Be truthful. Truthful in your behavior, in your relationship, in your approach, in your attitude. And be courageous to accept what is not truthful, because if you do not accept, you are allowing your ego to raise the anger and commit the violence, thoughtful violence, which means you are violating ahimsa. Third aspect of yama is asatya, or rather, it's actually pronounced asatya. Asatya means non-stealing, do not steal. Now, we do not steal. If you think of it, we are not thieves. We do not steal. But that's not what Patanjali meant. Patanjali means that you obviously do not steal, you are not thief, but you do not even what we call in our day-to-day life language, copying or following, copying ideas and copying somebody's teaching. Even that is asatya. Because, for instance, you are reading a literature, a dharmic literature or religious or spiritual literature, and you reading the experiences of saints and rishis and teachers or gurus, and you admire it, you follow it, you believe in it, which is all okay. But as I said, you have to come to a point where you accept it as a wisdom and practice it. Sorry, you accept it as a clarity, practice it, make it your own wisdom. When you make it your own wisdom and practice it by yourself, it is no longer that you are following somebody's advice, somebody's preaching, somebody's wisdom. It becomes your wisdom. And then it is not asatya. Until then, it is asatya. Until then, it literally means you are stealing somebody's wisdom. You are stealing and following somebody's wisdom. So now realize most of us in the world is basically following our gurus or masters or teachers or spiritual books. And we have trust, faith, belief in those. And so we surrender to them and we follow it, which is a good progress. But continuing that point should arrive when it becomes your own wisdom. And when it is your own wisdom, it is no more asatya. It is no more stealing. Patanjali, there was a lecture on this Patanjali Sutra where one of them said that if you are traveling and you borrow certain things from nature, for example, you pluck a flower or you draw a glass of water from the stream, all that is considered as asatya, stealing. It does not belong to you. You got it from the nature. It is stealing. So in other words, let the flower flourish or blossom on its own. Before plucking, it has a life. Moment you pluck, you end the life of that flower. And you pluck that flower for your own pleasure, for your own beautification of your house or your whatever. But you are killing your end of that life. And that's a stealing. Stealing from the nature. Similarly, water. You draw a water. Now there are conditions and situations whereby you're following a solitude, you are in a remote area following your abhyas, and you do need to eat, you do need to drink to sustain your body. For that, there is a ritual, there is a way to do it. You have to have attitude of gratitude first and foremost. Surrender yourself to the nature, which is Mother Goddess for us, Mother Nature, and mentally seek the permission of taking water from the stream or on the waterfall, or pick up the flower or seeds or plants that you want to consume. Mentally, genuinely seek the permission of the Mother Nature. And to that extent, you are stealing with your clear consciousness of gratitude. Now, all this I'm trying to talk is because how hard it is to follow these yamas and niyamas for our so-called modern life, to follow 100% yogic life.
Acharya ji, good
Yes.
morning.
Morning.
I always thought about this gratitude very deeply, and I felt even a breath we take has to have a gratitude.
That's true. That's the first thing that you have to be thankful for. If you do not have breath, you have no other experience. You are not there. Your body is not there. You are there, but you cannot express yourself. in order to express yourself, you need the help of your senses, your body. You as a consciousness is eternal. You are there all the time. It is just that you cannot express without body. And in order to sustain body, you need breathing. And so the first thing one has to be grateful of is of your breath. So you are right when you said that you have a gratitude of breathing. Okay, continuing, the fourth aspect of yama is brahmacharya, celibacy. So in the time when Patanjali laid these conditions, it was a normal way of living where by and large, most people followed ahimsa, followed asatya, followed satya, which is truthfulness. And most people also followed brahmacharya. So most of you probably know that we have four, the entire lifespan is divided into four-fold: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanprastha, and the retirement age when you are following. So brahmacharya is the time when you are building up yourself physically and consciously. You're spiritually, you are building up yourself because you are engaged in studies. So it is the period when you are collecting information, gathering the knowledge, pursuing the lifestyle based on that higher knowledge. And in order to do that sadhana of studying spiritual knowledge, you also follow ahimsa, brahmacharya, satya, all these yamas and niyamas. However, there is a time when you do not need to study further. You only need to contemplate and live by those principles. At that point, there were rishis or saints and gurus and ancient leaders who did not continue celibacy, who followed the family life. And there was the division of the spiritual philosophical path that one said, in order to follow the yogic life throughout your time that you are alive, remain celibate, be brahmacharya. Now, here, please remember, he did not mean the physical aspect of maintaining celibacy. He also means in terms of your thought. He always emphasized of your emotions and thoughts. You do not end up indulging into a violence of breaching the brahmacharya or celibacy, even by thought, even by emotion. It's not just that you maintain celibacy physically, but even mentally, emotionally, you have to remain steadfast on your principle of maintaining your manhood or womanhood. Whatever gender you are, maintain that gender throughout yoga life, yogic life. The second school of philosophy, which developed out of Patanjali, believed that you can have a family life whereby you can have a breach of condition to follow the brahmacharya only and only in order to progenerate your own children, which means you indulge in a physical connections with your spouse only for the purpose of bringing new life which means, in other words, that indulgence is restricted for the purpose of the pleasure, but it must have a purpose to bring about the new life. Only to that extent, the breach of brahmacharya is considered. Now that is according to the division of the second school of thought from the Patanjali. Original teaching of Patanjali maintains that you remain celibate throughout your life, which means your own energy is then diverted to lift it up to different kundalini, to different chakras, and in order to achieve the samadhi. When we speak of chakras and kundalini, we discuss that by practicing those bandhas and kriya yogas, you allow the energy flow from Ida and Pigla Nadi channels, ultimately allowing your Sushumna Nadi, the central channel, to function, which brings the energy from your Muladhara chakra to your Sahasrara chakra. That becomes much more forceful if you have maintained celibacy, which means you have not wasted your own energy. You have kept your energy within you and directing that energy to move upward instead of outward. Move that energy upward through different chakras until you come to your Sahasrara chakra. That was the purpose and idea originally when Patanjali recommended or laid down this principle of brahmacharya. The last aspect of yama is aparigraha. And that is very important. Aparigraha is to refrain from sense gratification. In other words, remain not greedy, non-greedy. You must not have any greed for anything. And as you know, the greed is based on our different senses. It's basically for our sense gratification. Your tongue wants to eat the most tasty food, and that's your greed. That's the greed of your sense of your tongue, your mouth, for tasting the most tasty food. Or you like to listen to the most harmonious sound or music or something that gives you pleasure. Now that's again a sense gratification of hearing. Or you like to speak on something which makes you feel good, makes you feel happy, makes you feel satisfied. That's a gratification of speech. Or you have a gratification of touch, your skin. You like to touch something which gives you gratification of touch. So basically, aparigraha means a control on your senses, or rather organ of your senses. There are two different things. One are the organ of senses, and second, most important, is the internal part of your experiencing the senses. As I realized, or everybody realized, when you see something so beautiful, you're gratifying the sense of seeing. And what is your organ? Eyes are your organs of seeing. But eyes are merely organs. What happens through the eyes, that image that goes in, it is then processed. And then it goes into your part of your brain, or we have different hemisphere in brain. It is then visualized in your brain. And when you visualize in that brain, it releases certain chemicals which brings about satisfaction, brings about fulfillment, brings about the happiness. So eye does not give you happiness. Eye is only receiving the image. The feeling of happiness and all processes happen in your mind, in your brain. So the sense gratification are two. One, the door of your sense gratification, which are your eyes, ears, nose, mouth, touch. Those are organs of sense gratification. What is important is the equilibrium of your brain or your mind, whereby you have no such distinguish. There is no discrimination of what is good and what is not good. That is the aparigraha, non-greed, that you have no such thing as discriminating what is good and what is not good, what is right and what is not right. Because it is all perceived through your sense organs. And when you have a discipline and control on your sense organs, that is when you stop being greedy. And therefore, when it comes, these are the yamas, which are don'ts. When we take up niyamas, which are do's, it reflects there, saying, by not allowing this, what are you allowing? You are allowing to go and find the answers, find the happiness, find the pleasure, find the peace within yourself. So you really do not need to have a greed for possessing something that makes you happy, because that's only external. So today we only speak about yama, the 5 principles of yama, quickly repeating them: ahimsa, satya, asatya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, non-greed. All these 5 are interlinked. None of them stand separate. Each one has connection with other principle. So it's not that you follow one and you are happy about it. No, you have to have a practice of following all 5 of them. That's what Patanjali expected. That's what Patanjali advised. All 5 principles of yama to be followed in order to live and lead a yogic life. Chaitali, is this satisfying to you?
Yeah. I have a question. Just now you said regarding aparigraha that enjoying external beauty, that is also one kind of greedy thing. So unless until we enjoy external beauty or anything, how will become internally beautiful? Like purify ourselves? Is it
Chaitali,
clear my question?
yes, I'm very clear about what you asked, but the instant response from me is, it is exactly other way around. Unless you are internally satisfied, and you cannot appreciate externally. Anything that is external, you cannot, really speaking, you cannot enjoy or be satisfied with whatever amount of possession you may have, unless you are internally satisfied. Until internally you are, let's say, emotionally, internally, you are accepting it. It is simple as this, that you may have, let's say, 5 shoes, for example. One moment, internally, you said, that's it, I'm happy, I'm satisfied, this is more than I need. Then the 6th pair of shoes will not give you happiness as much as the first pair gave you. Because you have adopted that value, that this is it, I don't need anymore. So achieving and accepting and enjoying or appreciating the beauty externally is not the prerequisite for internal enjoyment. It's other way around. Unless you enjoy what is internal, what is your feeling, what is emotion, you are accepting your own self, you will not be able to accept what is external. Now question that same question, ask again. The same question what you ask again.
If we don't appreciate or enjoy external beauty, how
Stop.
will...
Stop. Now think, if you do not appreciate what you have now within yourself, appreciate that I am satisfied, I'm fulfilled with what I have. Do you really need to appreciate what is external?
No, in that way, I don't need.
Yes. So easy way to say, who is the richest man or who is the richest person? The one who possesses a lot or whose requirement is less?
Requirement is less.
He is the richest,
Yes.
or he or she. So what it means, if you are internally satisfied and fulfilled, you really do not need to possess additional excess. So aparigraha, it does not literally stop you from appreciating external stuff or external beauties. It only says, in other words, that you must have what you need in order to sustain yourself, but you do not need to possess more than that. So Patanjali was, in some way, you could say he was socialist. He was not capitalist. He advocated, be happy with what you have. Do not look for possessing more than what you need. That is aparigraha.
ले उठा लो ये राम राम लो कर लो बात
Chetali, does it
Yes.
answer your question?
Actually, maybe I have understood. Actually, I heard an interview of a renowned filmmaker Aparna Sen. He many movies she has directed, and it is a award winning. So in interview, the interviewer asking her that wherever you go in a hotel or you make it your home, even you change your curtain, even all everything you carry and you change and you create your own home, that hotel room itself. Why do you do that? Then she replied, I am very much beautiful. It attracts me. Unless until I have that ambience or atmosphere, I won't be able to develop this kind of movie which audience will watch. So I need to get that beautiful everywhere. Everything will be spick and pan, neat and clean and as per my requirement. So how, as a karma, it is her karma. So according to, so there is a little confusion because she is a renowned person, not like us.
Chetali,
Yeah.
you and all of us are renowned in our own way. That's number one. Number two, no matter whoever has achieved whatever status in the life, it literally does not mean there is a full stop, there's end of it. There is always a space, a room for improvement, for evolution. So somebody has one strength, but lacks the other strength. So a person could be an excellent, let us say, actor or director or whatever field of the life is. But it does not mean that it is perfect in overall. We only concern here the values that are laid by Patanjali in order to evolve spiritually in school of yoga philosophy. So, as I said, there are other school of philosophies which have different opinions and different belief systems and conditions. But since you raised the Yama Niyama laid by Patanjali, we are restricting our understanding and talk only on that Yama Niyama as per Patanjali. Now, whoever that you refer to they must have reason. So creating an atmosphere of personal home is for that person a support system in order to perform better, in order to create a better image, so that it is dependent to that extent, and without that support, unable to create that power of that creation or power of that new, whatever projection one is doing. So everything has a purpose, which is okay. We are not talking about right or not right. We are only saying you are appreciating your surrounding, which enables you to create new ideas or new image, which is okay. But you are dependent. You are taking that as a support. To that extent, without that, you are helpless. And Patanjali believes to make you not helpless, but abundant in all sense.
Okay.
Acharya, going back to what you just said, Chitali, let me just add.
Yes.
You just mentioned, Acharya, that having lots of money is not rich, other than not having too many requirements. The person is richer.
Yeah.
I think in the same context as with Aparna Sen, she is dependent on so many things. I mean, again, question is, who's better, you or her? If you can adapt to any environment, I think you're a much better position or a much more creative person than somebody who needs the absolute same environment to be adaptive. I'm not being judgmental, but for you to say that she's a renowned person, so she's got it all right, I think I would look at you as a more a renowned person or a more active person who can adapt to any environment and yet be creative.
Okay.
Following anyone as an ideal or as a guru or a teacher or an inspiration is nothing wrong. But also be aware of the limitations. Also be aware of circumstances in which that person, whoever it is following that, that limitation. Making no judgment, do not come to conclusion. Try to contemplate, as we just speak now, that in order to create certain image or certain story or project new, let's say, creation that in a world of make-believe world, as we call it, somebody needs the support of having that surrounding which inspires, which makes them feel appreciative. That's a support system, and to that person, maybe it's necessary. But think in a larger picture. It also means that you are helpless if it is not available, which means that surrounding is more powerful than your own self. So this is, as we said, the 5 aspects of Yama, according to Patanjali. One can go on talking, elaborating it, but in principle, this is what it is. What is important is to relate it to our own life. That's more important. Take any one of them to start with and say, how much am I able to follow it literally? Therefore, in my opinion, most of us, when I say us, means not the people who are in this session, but otherwise, those who are following yogic life, most of us have compromised. We compromise on several occasions. We compromise on several conditions. Compromising with awareness consciously, and compromise as with the attitude of that's okay, doesn't matter. If I don't do it, that's okay. That's another attitude. And saying that, oh, I'm feel sad that I am unable to, because of my circumstances, I'm unable to follow it as it's supposed to be. Which means you are fully aware of your limitation. You're fully aware and accepting your limitation.
Acharya ji, one question can I ask? I feel none of in the world is there who is following with Patanjali. Anyone is there? I think everybody is deviated somewhere. At any point, whatever 5 points you have given, I feel not only me, not only I don't know about others, but I feel like that most, you have already told, most of us deviate from Niyam. But it is possible, yeah, somebody is there to following totally Patanjali. Anyone is there? I think
in my opinion,
Ramdev is also our yogic. I think he is also somewhere deviates. I feel so many statements from him also. So I was saying that in the world, if you are following, I don't know, but who is following him, मेरे को तो लगता नहीं if anyone is there in the world.
The short reply, because of time, short reply is that we are no one to come to that judgment whether people are following it or not. We only know what we know, and our knowing is so limited. There are so many things that we do not know, and we have to accept it. So how do we know there are many people who are following their yogic life without talking about it? How do we know that there is no one following a solitude and continuing the yogic life? There may be, there can be. And for me personally, I trust and believe that that sattvic gun is still in domination. There are such people who are leading this kind of life. It is just that we do not know. We do not know. That's all. When we do not know, because it is not made public. There is no media coverage, there is no literature, there is no mention of such people anywhere. But that does not mean they are not there. They can be there. There is a possibility there are such people. They may not look like you and me. They may look just someone whom you ignore. But that person could be following these principles in solitude, so that people don't know about such people. It is the goodness of those people that this period of violence and disturbance is able to sustain. Without the goodness of such hidden, as I call into inverted, I would say hidden people, or people who are not in a limelight, their goodness is keeping us going. So we cannot take it for granted that they are not there. In my opinion, there are such people. We don't know where and who.
And I believe
Okay,
because
Acharya
of
ji,
those people, this world is moving. In spite of so much violence, it is my belief, and you have put the point.
Yep.
And another point I must admit about our today's session, it was clear because of Acharya ji and Kapil that I am free, I am not dependent, whereas Aparna Sen is dependent on the circumstances. Long time I was just suffering with this question. So this also been cleared. So I'm thankful to both of you.
Thank you so much. Shall we close?
Yes, please.
Yes, Acharya.
Om. Asato ma Sagamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, God, for giving us air to breathe. Thank you, God, for giving us water to drink. Thank you, God, for giving us sun for energy. Thank you, God, for giving us food to eat. Thank you, God, for giving us good health and happiness. Thank you, God, for giving us positivity. Thank you, God, for giving us all that we need. Thank you, God, for your love, your protection, your guidance, your blessings. Thank you, God, for the existence. Thank you for giving me a chance to serve you.
Thank you, Acharya ji, for
Thank you.
guiding us so much.
Thank
Always.
you.
Thank you, Acharya ji.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Acharya
you,
ji.
Acharya ji. Hari Om.